My friend Eric asked me, how about the differences between the Christus Victor theory of atonement versus penal substitutionary atonement? That's a pretty technical question. Okay, so all Christians agree that atonement is what Jesus came to do. And what atonement is somehow Jesus is reconciling the whole universe back to God. That sin had separated the universe from God. However you want to define sin, it's a very complicated concept. But that sin is the problem and it separated the universe from God or made us enemies of God, at war with God. But somehow Jesus' death on the cross and his resurrection and his life before that has reconciled or is in the process of reconciling the universe and the world back to God. So atonement, at one-ment, that's one way to think about it. That's making us at one with God again. Christians fight about the mechanics of this all the time, and there's no answer. I mean, traditions, the Bible argues with itself, traditions argue with each other. There's no one answer. So Eric's asking about two possible explanations for the mechanics of atonement. There's many more besides this, but I'll explain them real quick. So the first one is Christus Victor theory of atonement. Christus Victor just means that Christ is the victor. He's victorious, so Jesus won. And the idea here is that whatever was separating us from God, sin, human limitation, spiritual forces, demonic powers, Satan himself, all those things that separate us from God, that Jesus Christ was victorious over them all. And so the idea here is that Jesus being victorious over this army that was oppressing and enslaving us, now we're a free people, and he's liberated us from all those oppressive powers and all those oppressive things, and he's been victorious over all them and liberated us, so now that we're free to follow God and be at one with God. That's a Christus Victor theory of atonement. My sense is that's gaining more popularity now, but it's been around forever. The other one is penal substitutionary atonement. So penal, jail. You go to jail, son, penitentiary. Substitutionary, that means you've been substituted for something else. So penal substitution is that God wanted all humanity to go to jail and to pay the price for their sin, and he was pissed because humans are sinners. And so what he did is, instead of punishing us and making us go to penitentiary or to the penal colony or to jail, that he substituted Jesus for us. So Jesus absorbed the penalty for our sin so that now we can live a free life. So yeah, that's penal substitutionary atonement, that Jesus makes us at one with God, or atones for what's separating us from God by absorbing our punishment that we deserve from God. I think they both have merit. I think the Christus Victor theory of atonement has more explanatory power and more resonance to me, to all the biblical verses and what I see happening in people's lives, spiritual lives in the church. I think it has more explanatory power. There are people who just hate penal substitutionary atonement. They think it's just immoral. It makes God like a cosmic child abuser, and it just makes God look really bad. And so they avoid it like the plague. The problem is there's a biblical strain that supports at least part of this perspective of penal substitutionary atonement. They're both in the scripture. I do preach them both, although in different ways. I think penal substitutionary atonement had more purchase in a different cultural moment, namely 1800s in colonial culture. And I think Christus Victor theory of atonement historically has probably had wider purchase overall. I don't think you have to pick one or the other. In the end, the atonement is such a rich, deep, complicated subject that humans can only hope to scratch the surface of this million-mile deep ocean that is God's love and the power of that ocean to bring us back to him. And so we can make all our guesses. If you guys want, you can fight over the guesses. I'm not really into that. I'm just trying to help people follow Jesus.